The girl in the shadows, the wind howled through the broken city. Buildings stood like skeletons, silent and crumbling. Ash floated in the air, covering the ground like gray snow. This was Earth, years after the Great War. A man named Jaren walked alone through the ruins. He wore a thick coat and carried a heavy bag full of tools and food. His eyes were sharp. His face was rough. He had learned how to survive. He didn't trust anyone. Not anymore. Jaren was looking for supplies batteries. Clean water, maybe some old tech. The city was dead, but sometimes still gave him what he needed. As he moved through an alley, something caught his eye. A flicker. A movement, quick, small, almost invisible. He stopped. Slowly turned his head. Nothing, but he knew what he saw. Something or someone was there, watching. He stepped forward, quiet, careful. Then he saw it again. A small shape behind a broken wall. Too small to be a grown-up, too thin to be dangerous. A child. He moved closer. The shape moved back. Jaren raised his hand. "Hey," he said, softly. "I won't hurt you." No answer. He took a small pack of crackers from his bag. He placed it on the ground and stepped back. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then, slowly, a little girl stepped out from the shadows. She looked no older than 8. Her skin was grayish, her hair tangled, her arms and legs thin like sticks. She wore an oversized coat that dragged on the ground. Her eyes were big, glowing faintly. Not normal. She wasn't fully human, but Jaren didn't move. He didn't speak. She looked at him, then at the food. She moved quickly, grabbed the pack, began to eat like she hadn't eaten in days. Maybe she hadn't. Jaren watched her. "What's your name?" he asked. No answer. She finished the crackers fast and stared at him again. He reached into his bag and pulled out a small water bottle. He rolled it toward her. She grabbed it, drank, and then ran. Just like that, she disappeared back into the shadows. Gone that night, Jaren sat inside his bunker. It was small and hidden under a collapsed building. He had solar lights, a small bed, some gear, and an old radio that barely worked. He couldn't stop thinking about the girl. Where did she come from? Why was she alone? And what was she? He had seen mutants before. Survivors of alien experiments. Victims of radiation. But this girl felt different. Her eyes glowed, not like a weapon, more like sadness. He stared at the door. Part of him wanted to go look for her. Another part warned him it could be a trap. Maybe someone sent the girl to find survivors. Maybe the hunters were back. He shook his head. "Too risky," he whispered. He turned off the lights and lay down. Around midnight, he heard something whispers, low and soft. Then, a scratch at the door. He sat up fast, grabbed his old rifle. Silence, another scratch. Then, to short knocks, he moved to the door quietly. "Who's there?" he said. No answer. He opened the small hatch to peek outside. Nothing, but just as he was about to close it, he saw something. A drawing. Scratched into the dirt. A simple picture, a stick figure, handing food to a smaller stick figure. His hand froze. The girl, she came back. But where was she now? He stepped outside with a flashlight. The alley was empty. No sound, no girl. He walked. A few steps, then stopped. Another drawing on a wall. This time, the big stick figure had a question mark above its head. The small figure pointed toward the east. It was like she was leaving a message. Jaren felt something strange in his chest. Hope that next day, he went back to the same spot where he first saw her. Left more food, some clothes, even a small toy-an old action figure from before the war. Then he waited, but she didn't come. Days passed. No sign of her. until the fifth night. Jaren was cooking in the bunker when he heard soft footsteps outside. He opened the hatch, heart beating fast. There she was. But this time, she wasn't alone. Next to her stood a tall woman, pale skin, long black hair, eyes glowing with the same faint light. She stared at him, calm but alert. The girl stepped forward, holding the toy he had left. She pointed to Jaren, then to the woman, and for the first time, she spoke one word: safe. Asterisk the fifth night came. With no stars, the sky was covered in thick clouds. Cold wind whispered through broken streets. Jaren sat near the small fire inside his bunker, his eyes fixed on the door. Something felt wrong, or maybe something was coming. Then he heard it. 3 soft knocks, not loud, not fast. Slow, calm, knock, pause, knock, pause, knock, Jaren stood up. Slowly, his heart beat louder than his footsteps. He picked up his flashlight, aimed it at the door hatch, and opened it. At first, he saw nothing. Then 2 shadows, small and tall, standing side by side in the dark. His breath caught. It was her. The girl from the shadows, she was holding the same toy he had given her. But this time, she wasn't alone. Next to the girl stood a woman, tall, thin, wrapped in dark cloth from head to toe. Her skin was pale, almost silver in the moonlight. Black hair moved with the wind. Her eyes glowed softly, just like the girl's, but deeper, wiser, stronger. She didn't speak. She didn't move. She just stared at him. Jaren aimed the flashlight higher, then stopped. Her feet weren't touching the ground, floating just an inch above. Silent, still, not human. Definitely not human. He stepped back, unsure. The little girl took 1 step forward. She pointed at herself, then at the woman, then at Jaren. Her voice was soft, like the wind itself. Safe. Jaren looked into her eyes. She remembered him. She trusted him. But who was this woman? "Come in," he said slowly. Stepping aside, the girl walked in first. The woman followed, floating like a shadow behind her. No sound, no fear. Inside the bunker was warm and filled with soft yellow light. The girl smiled slightly and sat down near the fire. The woman stood in the corner, her eyes watching every corner of the room. Jaren placed 2 cups of water on the floor. The girl drank quickly. The woman didn't move. "Who are you?" Jaren asked. "Silence," he repeated, slower this time. "Are you her, mother?" The woman tilted her head. Then, in a broken, quiet voice, she said one word: "Yes." Her accent was strange, metallic, almost like a machine. But clear enough, she was the girl's mother. But what were they doing here? Jaren kept his hand close, to his sidearm, just in case. He spoke again. "Why did you come back?" The woman said nothing. She looked at the girl. The girl pulled something out of her coat. A metal disc, small, silver, glowing faint blue. She placed it on the floor between them. The woman stepped forward, and before Jaren could react, she opened his old radio like she had done it 100 times before. No tools, just her hands. Click, snap. Twist on seconds, the radio was completely taken apart. Jaren stood up, alarmed. "Hey, what are you doing?" The woman raised one hand. "Help," she said. "Need signal. Danger, near." That's when Jaren understood. She wasn't breaking it. She was using it to call someone. The girl crawled next to Jaren, holding his old toy tight. She looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. "Bad ones. Coming." Jaren's face tightened. "Who?" "The woman replied slowly. "Hunters." That word hit the air like a cold blade. Hunters, the ones who destroyed cities, who ended the sky wars, the ones who took humans and others and vanished them. He had heard stories, whispers on broken radios. Tales told by dying survivors. Now they were real and they were close. Jaren stared at the radio pieces. The woman's fingers moved with perfect skill, no hesitation. She wasn't just surviving. She knew technology, alien technology, and she was trying to send a warning. But to who? The girl curled up near the fire. Her breathing was slow, calm, safe. The woman didn't look scared. She looked prepared. Jaren finally asked the question, burning in his mind, "Why me? Why bring her here?" The woman looked at him, eyes glowing. "Because you fed her," she said. "She chose you." Outside, the wind stopped, and from far above, the clouds glowed faint red. Something was coming, something big, and Jaren had just become part of something far larger than he understood. The radio spoke first, not with words, but with a soft hum. A sound that hadn't been heard in years. It was like the machine had woken up. After a long, silent sleep, Jaren stared at the broken parts scattered across the floor. He hadn't turned that radio on in months. Its battery was dead. Its wires were old. It was just junk, but none under her hands. It glowed. Faint blue light danced along the edges of the metal disc the girl had brought. The woman's fingers moved quickly. She didn't look up. She didn't blink. Her long black hair hung like a curtain as she worked. Jaren didn't understand what she was doing. But whatever it was, wasn't human, and it wasn't safe. He grabbed his rifle slowly and cleared his throat. "If that radio sends out a signal," he said, "someone might hear it." The woman stopped, then turned her head. "They all ready?" "Here," she said, in her strange, broken voice. "I only answer." Jaren stepped closer. "Answer who?" She looked at him, eyes glowing like cold fire. "My kind," she whispered. "Or what's left of them." The girl sat beside the fire again. She was drawing on the floor with a piece of charcoal circles, lines, stars. A strange map. Jaren looked down at the drawing. "Is that Earth?" he asked. The girl shook her head. Then pointed to one small dot in the corner. "This is Earth," she said. Jaren blinked. The rest of the drawing showed many other dots connected with lines, arrows, numbers. "Too many. Wait. This is a star map," he whispered. She nodded. "My mother shows me. Long ago." That's when he realized they weren't just from another world. They had been traveling, running, hiding, and Earth. It wasn't their home. It was just the last place left. The radio made a high-pitched sound. Jaren flinched. The woman didn't. She pressed her hand flat on the disc. A blue circle appeared in the air above it spinning, flashing symbols he had never seen before. Alien language. Jaren took a step back. "Are you calling them here?" he asked. Voice sharp, the woman shook her head. "I am warning them," she said. "If we die here, they must know." Jaren didn't like the sound of that. "Die?" She stood slowly. "The hunters found the signal. They are near. Maybe hours. Maybe less." The girl hugged her knees. The bunker suddenly felt colder. Jaren sat down hard. He had lived through invasions, battles, bombings. He had survived alone for almost 5 years. But now he had a kid in his home. A glowing alien woman using his radio, and hunters on the way. He laughed once. Just a breath. "I should have ignored that girl," he said. Walked away. The woman looked at him, her voice softer now. "But you didn't." There was a long silence. Then she sat down across from him. "You are human," she said, as if tasting the word. "Yes," Jaren replied. "Last I checked," she nodded. "We watched your kind. Long time. Before war, watched." Jaren asked, "Why?" "Because you love. You fight. You protect. even when alone. Jaren raised an eyebrow. Sounds like a nice lie. She pointed to the girl. You fed her? No reason. No gain. That is why she came back. That is why. I trust you. He didn't know what to say. Suddenly, the light in the bunker dimmed. The radio flickered. The woman stood quickly. They block signal, she said. Hunters know we are here. Jaren grabbed his rifle and moved to the door. Outside, the clouds glowed red again. This time, brighter and lower. A strange sound filled the air like metal, screaming from the sky. The girl covered her ears. The woman whispered, too late. Jaren turned to her. You said your kind might still be out there. She nodded. He took a deep breath. Then we better hold them off long enough. For someone to hear your warning, she looked at him, surprised. You would fight. For us, he checked his gun. I fed a starving kid, didn't I? The girl smiled, and outside, something large passed above the clouds, casting a shadow that swallowed the bunker in darkness. Asterisk, it started with a sound no human had words for. Low, deep, like a mountain breathing. Then came the light sharp. Red beams cutting through the sky, scanning the ground like searching eyes. Jaren had never seen a hunter ship up close. Now one was hovering above his bunker, and it was looking for them. He crouched near the doorway. Rifle ready, every muscle in his body tight. The woman stood beside him, completely still. Her eyes were closed. She wasn't scared. She was listening. Jaren whispered, Can they see us? She opened her eyes. Not yet, but they smell energy. Jaren looked around. The bunker had solar panels, heat, even the radio. Then we need to turn everything off. The woman nodded. With one wave of her hand, the lights dimmed and the radio disc went dark. Only the fire remained, a soft glow in a silent room. The girl was hiding under the table, arms wrapped tight around her legs. Her small voice broke the silence. They'd take children, she whispered. Jaren turned. What do you mean? She didn't look up. They took me once. His blood ran cold. He moved closer. You said you were hiding. The woman spoke now. Her voice was cold, steady. She was taken by the hunters, used as bait, sent to find humans, mark them. Jaren's hand slowly lowered his weapon. You mean? She was supposed to lead them to me. The woman nodded, double quotes, yes. But she was too weak, too hungry. She did not mark you. You fed her instead, gave her safety. Jaren looked at the girl. She was shaking. Tears rolled down her cheeks, quiet as the dust. He sat down beside her. Why did you come back? He asked gently. She looked up, eyes glowing faintly. Because you didn't hurt me. Outside, the sound returned closer. Now the ship was landing. Jaren stood quickly and checked his rifle again. We can't stay here. The woman walked to the far wall. She pressed her hand against the stone. A panel opened with a hiss. A tunnel. Jaren blinked. That wasn't there before. She nodded. Old path. From before the war, I found it. Long ago. Jaren turned to the girl. Can you run? She stood, nodded together. They entered the tunnel. The passage was dark and narrow. Walls were lined with old cables and pipes. Where does this lead? Jaren asked. To an old military base, the woman answered. One the hunters do not know. Why there? Oh, she stopped. There is something hidden, something Earth built, but never used. Jaren felt a chill. A weapon. The woman's eyes flashed. Something better. Behind them, the bunker shook. A blast. Stone crumbled. The ship had fired. They kept moving. Every step forward was louder than the last. The girl breathed fast, but didn't complain. Jaren looked at her. for someone who had seen so much pain. She still had hope. After what felt like hours, they reached a heavy steel door. The woman placed her hand on a scanner. Blue light blinked. Once click, the door opened with a groan. Inside was a large, dark chamber. Screens, machines, walls covered in wires and blinking. Lights still alive. Jaren stepped in slowly. This is old Earth tech. The woman nodded. It listened and learned. Jaren frowned. Learned. She turned to him. It's not a weapon. It's a mind. A machine with a memory. The girl walked to a terminal and pressed a button. A hologram appeared in the air. A human face made of light. Male, calm. Welcome back. The voice said. The woman whispered. It remembers me. Jaren stared at her. What are you? She finally answered. I was part of a science group. We came to Earth before the war. We were studying your kind, secretly. And the girl, my child. Born here, half of me, half of your world. Jaren stepped back. You mean she's part human? The woman nodded once. Suddenly, alarms flashed. Red light pulsed through the room. The voice of the machine said calmly, warning, hunter signal detected. Approaching coordinates. Time to impact 6 minutes. Jaren gripped his weapon tighter. The woman walked to the center of the room. It's time to wake it up, she said. Jaren raised an eyebrow. Wake up, what? She smiled faintly. The last defense Earth never used. Above them, the hunter ship moved again. But now, Earth was ready to answer. It began with a heartbeat. Not his, not hers, but the machine's. Boom, boom. Soft, steady, deep. Inside the walls, the ancient system buried under. Earth was waking up, and it was alive. Jaren felt it in the floor, first a low vibration beneath his boots. The lights flickered. The air smelled like dust and electricity. The woman stood calmly in front of the control panel. Her hand rested on the glowing console. Symbols shifted across the screen faster than human eyes could read. The voice of the machine echoed in the chamber. Defense protocol, sleeping. Confirm user command to activate. The woman spoke, firm and clear. Awaken. The war is not over. Behind them, the tunnel rumbled. A blast, then a scream not human. The girl jumped. Jaren ran to the tunnel entrance. Through the smoke and dust, he saw movement, dark shapes crawling along the walls. Hunters, small ones first. Drones, sniffers, 4 legs. No eyes, just claws and sensors. They had found the tunnel, and they were coming. Jaren slammed the door shut and locked the metal wheel. They're inside. The machine voice said calmly, impact expected in 4 minutes. He turned to the woman. Whatever you're starting, make it faster. She didn't look back. I need more power, she said. This place is old. Too weak. The girl pulled something from her coda, small, glowing battery. She handed it to her mother silently. The woman smiled. Thank you. She placed it into a slot on the panel. The room lit up instantly. The machine's voice changed. Power restored. Awakening primary system. On the far wall, metal panels slid open. Jaren turned. Dan stared. Behind the panels stood a shape, tall, heavy, silent, a machine. But not just a machine. It looked human. A soldier made of steel and light. Armor wrapped in Earth's old flag. A forgotten protector. The last guardian. Jaren stepped forward. What is that? The woman answered, it's called a sentinel. Built in secret. Never used. Too dangerous. Too human. The sentinel opened its eyes bright blue. It looked at them, scanned the room, then spoke. Identify threat. The woman pointed to the tunnel. Hunters, breach in progress. The sentinel stepped forward. I exist to protect. Then, without another word, it walked toward the tunnel. Jaren grabbed his rifle. I'm going with it. The woman turned sharply. You don't have to. I know, he said. That's why I will. The girl ran to him. She held his sleeve tightly. Don't leave. He knelt down. I'll be back. I promise. She stared into his eyes, then slowly handed him her toy, the same one he gave her on the first day. He took it, nodded, and followed the sentinel into the smoke. The tunnel was chaos. Sparks flew. Screeches echoed. The sentinel moved like lightning, its arms turning into weapons Jaren couldn't name. Every blast lit the tunnel like fire. Jaren followed behind, shooting at anything that moved. Claws scraped at his legs. A drone jumped at him, but he kicked it away. They reached the far end of the tunnel, where a second door stood sealed shut. We need a way out. He shouted. The sentinel raised one arm and fired. The door exploded. Daylight poured in, freedom back inside. The woman and the girl stood ready. The machine voice spoke again. Main facility will collapse in 60 seconds. Self-destruct initiated. The woman looked at her daughter. It will stop them. For now. They ran toward the exit. Jaren stood outside the broken tunnel, breathing hard. Behind him, the sentinel emerged, armor scratched, smoking, but still standing. Then the woman and girl ran out into the sunlight, and behind them, boom, the base exploded in fire and steel. The earth shook. The hunter drones screamed and vanished in the blast. Silence, only wind now, only dust. Jaren sat on a rock, his face dirty, his chest burning with every breath. The woman sat beside him. The girl curled in her lap. No words were needed. They had made it. For now, but it wasn't over. Not yet. Far above, in the sky that was once blue, a second hunter ship moved, bigger, darker, closer. Asterisk, the sky was no longer sky. It was metal now, floating, watching, waiting. The second hunter ship had arrived. It didn't roar. It didn't glow. It just hovered above them, huge, silent, and full of death, like a god made of machines. Jaren stared at it. Breath caught in his throat. That's not a search ship, he whispered. The woman's face went pale. It's a Reaper. The ground crackled beneath their feet. Small rocks floated. Air turned heavy, like it was warning them. Jaren looked around. Trees bent backward. Birds vanished. Everything was silent. Too silent then. One deep sound rolled across the land. Boom. Not an explosion. A heartbeat. The ship was waking up. And Earth was its target. The sentinel stood still beside them, like a knight waiting for command. Jaren touched its arm. Can you stop that thing? The machine's voice was calm. Not alone. The woman turned to Jaren. There is one chance. He looked at her. What is it? She pointed to the sentinel's chest, a round glowing core. It has a link to Earth's last AI. Jaren blinked. The base is gone. We blew it up. She shook her head. The core is not gone. It lives inside the sentinel now. But it needs ... a guide. Jaren frowned. You mean ... a pilot? The sentinel turned its glowing eyes to him. Pilot confirmed, it said. Jaren took a slow step back. Hold on. I never agreed. You're human, the woman said. Why it chose you? The system was made to trust your kind. He looked down at the toy still in his pocket, the one the girl gave him before the fight. He closed his eyes, took a breath, then stepped forward. Okay, let's end this. The girl ran to him, wrapped her arms around his waist. "Come back," she whispered. He knelt down. "I will. That's a promise." The woman placed her hand on his shoulder. "You fight like a human. But now, ... you lead like one." The Sentinel opened its chest. Inside, glowing softly, was a cockpit. Not like a vehicle, more like a living room of light. Jaren climbed in. The chest closed around him. Suddenly, he wasn't inside a robot. He was the robot he saw the world from above. Felt. The wind heard every signal in the air, every heartbeat, every sound wave. The ship in the sky pulsed again. It had noticed him. The fight was about to begin. The woman turned to her daughter. "We must help." "But how?" the girl asked. She held up the radio disc. "Old tech can speak, even to enemies." In the sky, the hunter ship opened. Dark wings unfolded. Thousands of drones poured out like insects, filling the sky in swarms. Jaren, inside the Sentinel, stepped forward. His voice echoed through the machine. "Earth is not yours." And then he ran, faster than any human, stronger than steel. He leapt into the sky itself. The battle was fire and light. Lasers, smoke, screams, drones exploded in waves. But more came. The Sentinel fought like a storm, hands turning into cannons, arms into shields. Still, he was one. Against thousands, he was losing ground. On the surface, the girl held the toy in one hand and the radio disc in the other. She spoke into it, not in English, but in the voice of the hunters. A code, a cry. The woman watched her daughter. Pride in her eyes. "She is more than either of us," she whispered. "She is hope." In the sky, the swarm slowed for just a moment, confused, and in that moment, Jaren struck the ship's core. He flew into the belly of the monster and fired everything the Sentinel had. A white light swallowed the sky. The ship cracked. Screamed, collapsed, fell, and then ... silence. Ash floated down like snow again. On the ground, the girl looked up. Her eyes were full of light and tears. The woman held her hand. Together, they waited, and then, from the dust, a shape walked out, tall, heavy, broken armor, but alive. The Sentinel, and inside, Jaren, still breathing. The girl ran to him, laughing through tears. "You came back?" He smiled, weak but proud. "Told you I would." The war wasn't over, but today, Earth had answered, and it had answered with kindness, courage, and one human who chose to care. The war ended with silence. No celebration, no fireworks. Just the wind blowing across the broken earth, and the sound of birds returning. Real birds, the first Jaren had heard in years. He sat on the edge of a small hill, dirt on his clothes, scratches on his arms, and a soft smile on his face. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't surviving, he was living. Below the hill was a small home. Not much, just walls made of salvaged stone, a roof patched with old metal, and a solar panel, blinking slowly in the sun. But it was warm, safe, and full of life. The girl was drawing in the dirt, her hands covered in dust. But her smile was wide. Beside her, a small garden had begun to grow. Not much, just beans, herbs, and tiny green leaves. But on Earth, that was a miracle. The woman stood nearby, watching the sky. She still wore her long black coat, but now her eyes were soft, her voice calm, her glow no longer cold. She wasn't running anymore. They had found something better. Jaren walked down the hill. Slowly, his legs still hurt from the final battle. The armor was gone now, buried in a cave nearby. The Sentinel was sleeping again, deep beneath the earth, waiting to rise if ever needed again. But Jaren hoped it never would. Some things should sleep forever. As he reached the garden, The girl ran up and hugged him. "You're slow," she teased. He laughed. "I'm old. You're not that old." "You think that because you're small?" She poked his side. "I'm growing." Jaren looked at the garden. So is the earth. Inside the house, the woman had built something strange. A map made of light. It's floating above a metal table, not just earth. The stars, each one marked with a color. Some red, some blue. One yellow dot glowed brighter than the rest. "This is us," she said to Jaren. He nodded. "Still here." She touched another star. "Some of my kind are still out there. They may come, or they may never return. What will you do if they come?" The woman paused. "I will tell them the truth." Later that night, Jaren sat by the fire. The girl came to him, holding a small book made from old paper and wire. "I wrote something," she said. He took the book, gently dot inside, in her shaky handwriting. Were words in two languages, hers and his. At the top was a title. "The Day I Was Fed." Jaren looked up, eyes soft. "You remember that?" She nodded. "I remember everything." She sat beside him, head on his shoulder. "I thought you would leave. Like the others." "I almost did," Jaren admitted. "But then you looked at me, and I saw something I hadn't seen in years." "What?" "Hope." The woman joined them at the fire. The three of them, human, alien. And something in between sat under the stars. No warships, no hunters, only the wind. And the soft hum of peace. Jaren spoke quietly. "Do you think more will come?" The woman nodded. "Some will come to fight. Some to learn. And some to destroy." He looked at the girl. "But some might just need help." She smiled. "Then we'll feed them too." The fire burned low. In the distance, a light shot across the night sky. A star. A ship. Or maybe both. No one said a word. But in their hearts, they knew. Something was watching, not as enemies, but as witnesses to a world that still fought for kindness, and on a planet nearly forgotten, in a house made from broken things. 1. Little girl once fed by a stranger now lived with her family. A family born not of blood, but of choice.